And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, we are going to be looking at the NBA games that are going to be happening later on tonight, as well as recapping the NBA game that went down yesterday night. So, the game that went down yesterday was Dallas going up against the Utah Jazz. I expected Dallas to come out and win this game, but they messed up at the very end. In fact, more specifically, Luka messed up at the very end. Now, this game was, I wouldn't really say, it came down to the wire, but the Utah Jazz, they almost blew it. So, in the third quarter, they completely outscored the Dallas Mavericks 38-21. But then in the fourth quarter, Dallas was slowly closing in and they were able to make a nice comeback and tie the game up eventually. However, in the final seconds of the game, Luka Doncic, on a simple screen and roll play, an off-ball screen and roll play, I should say, just did not play defense. That's really the only way I can really describe what happened, because it was a hiccup. Like, it was a very, very bad hiccup. Like, Luka was straight up just standing there, and the defender saw that he wasn't paying attention. Not the defender. The player on offense saw that he wasn't really paying attention. I believe it was John Collins who ended up making that backdoor cut to the basket. Let me go ahead and check just to make sure that I'm not spewing lies. Yes, it was. John Collins, he ended up making the game-winning dunk off of a Jordan Clarkson assist, and mainly because Luka Doncic was sleeping on defense. This has been a problem with Luka Doncic and through the most part of his career. In fact, throughout the entirety of his career. He's fantastic on offense, but on defense, he's really not that good. In fact, he's really, really bad on defense. But you live with that because he drops 37 points. However, unfortunately, these 37 points were in vain because it did end up in a loss. It was a 2-point loss. And, 37, 7, and 9, despite the fact that he dropped all of these numbers, I can't help but not blame Luka Doncic for losing this game. Because if he would have at least played like a little bit of defense and paid a little bit of attention, then John Collins would never have gotten that open for a dunk. A basket that late in the game, like a dunk that late in the game, a wide open dunk is never acceptable. And you have to at least make their chances of scoring a little bit more difficult in the final minutes of a game. Like, at least if you're not going to play defense the whole game, sure, but put some effort in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. He obviously took blame for that and said it was a really bad mess up. I can't say the word that he said, but it was not a very good sign for Luka Doncic and his defense. And that's really the only thing that Luka needs to improve, because again, 37 points is 37 points, but again, that lack of defense in the final minutes of a game is unacceptable. Completely unacceptable coming in from Luka. There was no Kyrie in this matchup, so I guess it makes sense that the Utah Jazz ended up beating the Dallas Mavericks because, they did not have their second best player. But fear not, they had Klay Thompson. And oh wait, he went 6 for 17 and 5 for 13 from 3. So far, not a very solid year for Klay. It's really, I don't know. I really don't know how to feel about Klay right now, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because it's still rather early. But again, I don't really think you need to get much team chemistry when you're just doing the same thing that you've been doing on the Golden State Warriors, which is shooting the ball. Like, his three-point efficiency is more or less the same as it was last season, but it's like, again, it's a little bit of a downgrade from what he was previously in Golden State. And I understand that's going to come, players are going to eventually be on the decline as they get older, unless you're LeBron. But I don't know, like, these games, a lot of these games that I see, they're very, very inefficient coming in from Klay. But again, maybe this is because I'm always used to Klay Thompson's standards and Klay Thompson's efficiency. Remember, I had to watch the Golden State dynasty with Steph, Klay, Draymond, and Kevin Durant. Those guys, they made the finals for like 5 straight years or something like that. And they were just unbelievable in that span. Like it's so uncharacteristic to see Klay Thompson shoot this inefficiently in a lot of these games. And I don't want to say he was the big reason why they ended up losing because again, I feel like Luka Doncic's defense is the biggest culprit for this loss, but who knows what they would have done in overtime. Now, on the Jazz's side, John Collins, he ended with 28 points along with the game-winning dunk, so there's that. Colin Sexton had 16 points. Keontae George had 14 points. And Lauri Markkanen, not really living up to his ridiculous contract that he signed with the Utah Jazz. I mean, he's only averaging 16 points per game, along with 6 rebounds and 2 assists. So again, not really living up to that expensive contract that I thought he was going to live up to. But aside from that, they ended up winning a game. This is a win for the Jazz. They're 3-8 in the season, so not really much to be expected from there. But this is not a very good loss coming in from Dallas, but I'm sure they're going to fine-tune it as the season goes on. Now, let's go into the predictions for the games that are happening tonight. Now, these games are, depending on how you look at the in-season tournament, they're either important or they're completely unimportant. And the mix, there's a huge, split in opinions for what people think about the NBA in-season tournament. Some people think that it's unnecessary, that it's just padding, and it's completely useless at the end of the day. Other people, like me, actually like it. They like how it's a little bit more competitive. I'm not necessarily sure I could say I like the designs of some of the courts, but again, I think it adds something more to the NBA season, something that all of us can look forward to. And I mean, I can't really complain with that. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring up this graphic again. These are the standings, in each of the groups for the NBA in-season tournament and the NBA Cup. And let's go over the games. So the Knicks, they're going to be playing against the Brooklyn Nets. This is going to be a subway battle in New York. And the game starts at 7:30. I believe that the Knicks, actually no, the Magic are the number one team in Eastern Group A, in this group right here, and the Knicks are second. And the only reason why they're second is because of a point differential. And let's see, the Magic, they do end up playing tonight. They do play against the 76ers. Is Joel Embiid playing tonight? I don't know. He probably should be playing tonight, considering how this is an in-season tournament game. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing tonight. But again, they're playing in Orlando, so I have no idea whether or not Joel Embiid's going to be playing in this matchup. I really, really don't know. But if the Knicks end up winning, then they can take the number one spot in Eastern Group A. Now, the Nets, they have not played an in-season tournament game yet. This would be the first one that they played. But the 76ers and the Magic, they've already played an in-season tournament game. So that would mean that if the Magic end up winning, then they'll move up to number one. And if the 76ers lose, they'll go all the way to the bottom at the Eastern Conference Group A standings. I think the Knicks are going to end up winning in this matchup against the Nets. I just think the Knicks are a much better team. Karl-Anthony Towns, by the way, happy birthday, has been playing really, really well for the Knicks recently. And, the team just has to get it together. But I think against the Nets, they're going to be able to do enough. Now, the next game, probably the most popular game that's going to be going on, LeBron against Victor, or AD against Victor, if you want to be a little bit more accurate. The Lakers, they're going to be playing the Spurs. I'm going to be picking the Lakers in this matchup. I just think that they're going to have much better performances from the rest of their surrounding players as opposed to the Spurs. And I'm not going to get into what the standings are, because if I do that for every single team, then I think we're going to run out of time rather quickly. So I think that the Lakers, they're going to end up beating the Spurs. I believe this is also the first game, first in-season tournament game for the Lakers. Yes, it is. And let's see, did the Spurs play on Tuesday? No, they did not. So this is the first game for both of these teams. So we'll see where they end up getting ranked. Now, next game, the Golden State Warriors, they're going up against the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, Ja Morant's probably not going to be playing in this game. More on him later. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Warriors. The Warriors are 9-2. They're looking like one of the better teams in the NBA right now. Steph Curry, he had a really good game against Boston. I know that was a while ago, but still, this team, the Golden State Warriors, are looking fantastic, unfortunately. But I'm just going to predict them to beat the Grizzlies in this matchup. I already said that I actually talked about how the 76ers are matching up against the Magic. Now, depending on if Joel Embiid plays, I'd pick the Sixers if Joel Embiid is playing. If he's not playing, then the Orlando Magic are going to end up winning this matchup. And I think the game is going to be close, but I'm picking the Magic in this one. Next, the Raptors are going to go up against the Pistons. And I think that I never picked Detroit, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Detroit in this matchup right now. The Raptors, they're 2-10. They're not a very good team. And, I mean, primarily because, Scotty Barnes is out with an injury. Grady Dick has been fantastic for the Raptors, but, again, I don't think it's enough for the Pistons and Cade Cunningham. Next, we have the Heat going up against the Pacers. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Pacers. I think the Pacers are going to be able to outscore the Heat really easily. I think Tyler Hero is probably going to have a pretty good game, but I'm going to go with the Pacers. Next, the Cavs, they're going up against the Bulls. The Cavs have yet to lose a single game. I don't think that trend is going to stop now, and I'm going to go ahead and pick the Cavs in this matchup. Next, the Wizards, they're going up against the Atlanta Hawks. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick the Hawks in this matchup. And the Hawks, they're going to play at home. Now, whether or not they're going to have Trae Young in this matchup is still unclear, but we'll see again. Maybe he's going to be eligible to play in this matchup. Regardless whether he is or not, I still think that the Hawks are the much better team. Next, the Nuggets, they're going to go up against the Pelicans. I think the Nuggets are going to easily prevail in this matchup. They got Jamal Murray back. Nikola Jokic is a monster. There's no real dominant center or defensive center that the Pelicans have that can actually be able to stop Jokic. So, he's going to dominate. Next, the Suns, they're going up against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I really want to pick the Thunder in this matchup. Both of the teams have significant injuries to two players. Kevin Durant is out, as well as Chet Holmgren. Again, more on these players later. And I think OKC still has the leg up in this matchup. I think they have much more talent than the Phoenix Suns do, and I think the Thunder, they're going to end up winning, especially with that home court advantage. Then Houston going up against the Clippers. Now, I think Houston, they do have much more talent, but Norman Powell has been absolutely insane. He's been arguably the X factor for this Clippers matchup, and this Clippers team, excuse me. But I don't know. I think I'm going to go with Houston in this matchup. Next, the Timberwolves, they're going up against the Kings. I'm actually going to pick the Kings in this matchup because the Timberwolves, they recently lost twice to the Blazers, and nobody's talking about it. I kid you not. Nobody's talking to the fact that the Timberwolves ended up losing to the Blazers, and they got blown out in one of those games as well. So I think that the Kings are going to end up coming out victorious in this matchup, but that's just me. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of these predictions, and we'll see whether or not they end up being accurate towards the end of the day. And now we're going to go ahead and go into the fourth segment where I talk about all of the players who are injured in the NBA season. Now, I skimmed over it before, but I'm going to actually have a segment talking about all of these players right after this short break, so be sure to stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.